Recently, I found myself with a lot of time on my hands, and between those two things, you can either get boredom or depression or both. But what I do have is enough time to sneak into somebody's Disney Plus accounts that I have acquainted or borrowed and watch a lot of Disney movies, and some of those movies were the Cars movies. And even I was surprised to find out how much better that whole trilogy wrapped up when it reached the lowest of lows. And I felt like it was something to talk about because for whatever reason, the Cars franchise has been put all over my TikTok For You page with Travis Scott edits and Yeet edits and all the things. So maybe Cars is an interesting subject these days. Cars was one of the OG original Disney movies that came out years and years and years ago with Monsters, Inc. and Toy Story, but maybe is Cars a Pixar movie? I think Cars is a Pixar movie, but anyway, it's one of those iconic Disney Pixar movies that came out with the bunch of them, and has been described and has been cherished for years and years and years. However, Cars was one of the franchises that I didn't pay as much attention to the years after I was a kid as much as I did with the other franchises that came out during the Disney Golden and the Pixar Golden years. I focus more on like Toy Story. I'm a huge Toy Story fan, but Cars 1 was a movie that I didn't see for a really, really long time. So whenever I got a new Disney Plus subscription, I decided to go back and watch Cars 1. And yeah, it holds up. And not only does it hold up, I'm actually ashamed that I didn't watch this movie more growing up opposed to when I was a kid and already saw it a couple hundred times. And then I didn't watch it for about 10 years. But going back and watching for the first time in a really long time, I am very happy to say that, yeah, that movie is phenomenal for a reason. But after watching Cars 1 and with all the time that I have on my hands, I decided, let's just finish the franchise and see how this whole thing wraps up, because Cars 2 came out and I went and saw that movie in theaters, and whenever I was a kid, I remember being disappointed with it. But Cars 3 came out in theaters. I remember being very excited for it because the teaser trailers for that movie was absolutely just stunning, with Lightning McQueen being flipped through the air, hurt, damaged. The posters were great, but I remember not really I don't remember ever watching the movie. And if I did, I don't remember a lot of things from it. I remember some important concepts or symbols from the movie, that Lightning is getting older, and I remember Jackson Storm, but I didn't remember a lot of the movie. So after being pleasantly surprised, and well, not surprised, I knew Cars 1 was phenomenal, but being surprised that it was as good as it's as good as it is described to be. I decided to then jump into Cars 2, which I haven't seen in a long time, and yeah, that movie is still not phenomenal. Not as bad as you would think, but I think that they got the wrong things mixed up, and they didn't focus on what people really wanted to see, which is Lightning McQueen, his life and his racing life, and how that balances with his new friendships that he has with Mater. Instead, Cars 2 was a spy thriller with Mater being the main character, and the most interesting parts, which was Lightning racing racing in a different cup against Francesco, was pushed to the side. It wasn't as important. And the Mater spy story was just, I understand what they were going for. They wanted to do something a little bit different. But I think it was a huge miscalculation. So Cars 3 was a return to form for them, and I thought it was really, really good. Is Cars 3 a perfect film? No, but it's return to form that Lightning McQueen is back in the saddle. He is the main character of this film, and his racing life is the main character of this film. And I like how they tied it back to the Hudson Hornet, Doc's character, and how Lightning is now going through a very similar thing that the Hudson Hornet went through, which is something that they didn't really talk about in Cars 2, what happened with him and Lightning's life, because Lightning was in his prime during Cars 2, I guess, but now Lightning is dealing with the fact that he's getting older, new rookies are coming in, he is struggling to keep up, and it's something that's, it's a concept and an interesting thing that I like that they explored was Lightning McQueen, one of the greatest racers of all time, now struggling and battling against time as he is trying to be able to do the only thing that he knows, and that's race. But he sees these new rookies like Jackson Storm come in, the new generation of racers, and he can't keep up anymore. And he tries to push it and push it and push it to the point where he ends up wrecking just like Doc did. And then they set up this big race at the end, which is something that they did very similar in Cars 1 that Lightning has to find a way to get ready for. And if he doesn't win this race, he will be eliminated from racing forever. And he meets this new partner, Cruz, or a new trainer named Cruz, who works for the company that Lightning works for that just got bought out. And she is trying to help him become a better racer and to be able to catch up to these guys. But Lightning is stuck in his ways and doesn't want to do the new gen training, or wants to do the new gen training, but doesn't really know how to, and is finding a very, very hard time naturally catching up to these new guys. Lightning and Cruz seek out the help of Doc's old trainer, who helps Lightning improve a very drastic amount, but he comes to find out that he's still not ready, and he's still not ready to face Jackson Storm by time race time comes up. During the whole movie, you learn more about his trainer, Cruz, and how she was an idol. Lightning was an idol to her, and all she ever wanted to be was a racer, but couldn't get it done, was too stage fright, was too nervous, and that made Lightning respect her and care about her in a certain way as a rookie. And it's something where he's now taking over the mentorship role. It's the passing of the torch, a new generation story, and I love the concept that they went with this if Cars 3 is going to be the last Cars movie. So anyways, Lightning goes to the race. He ends up racing Jackson Storm. He can't keep up. He is just slightly too slow. And that's when he decides that he's going to follow the route that Doc did. He's going to keep racing in his life, but just because racing is still in his life doesn't mean that he needs to be in the spotlight anymore, and he decides to jump out and let Cruz become the new racer. Cruz then wins the race by beating Jackson Storm, and I love the concept that this is a passing of the torch moment and Lightning becomes the new trainer. However, if there's one thing I can say that I wasn't a big fan of in this movie was Cruz's entrance into the race. I thought that it was a little sloppy in the beginning. I started to warm up to it a little bit more, and I do love the ending, how Rust-eze was purchased by Dinoco, and now Lightning is the crew chief of Rust-eze or something like that. I can't remember how it panned out, but Lightning is the crew chief of Rust-eze and is the crew chief of Cruz, taking over Doc's role, and really passing the torch. Or maybe he stayed racing. I don't think he stayed racing. If he stayed racing, I'm pretty sure Lightning becomes Cruz's new pit chief, which is the route that they should have gone. I just was thinking, does Lightning race under Rust-eze and Cruz races under Dinoco? I don't think that's true. I know she becomes a Dinoco racer, or maybe there's a new Rust-eze racer or something like that. I can't remember how it exactly panned out, but the point is that it became a mentorship role between Lightning and Cruz, and at Radiator Springs, the movie ends with Lightning and Cruz racing each other to end the movie just as Doc and Lightning used to. And that is a really great way to say goodbye to characters that we grew up with, such as Lightning McQueen. I understand that Mater was not a massive part of this movie, and maybe that made some people upset, but really, Cars has been about Lightning McQueen this entire time, and I thought that they returned to form about that in a very, very good way, with his battling of being older and Father Time catching up to him and realizing that he might lose racing, which is the only thing he ever knows, and if he can't race, he can't be happy. But he come to find out that his biggest idol, Doc, who was his pit chief, found happiness and joy just working with Lightning, and Lightning found a way to stay connected to Doc and stay connected to racing by working and training Cruz. And I thought that was something that was handled very, very well. And if this is the last time you ever see Cars 3, or if you ever see Lightning McQueen in Cars again, I think that would be just fine. because his story wrapped up in a really good way where he's still connected to racing and he still is happy and he is connected to Doc and he's connected to Radiator Springs and Cruz is the new racer, and I like that concept a lot. Well, I probably would have ended the movie if I would have given Lightning this last one. I would have maybe had him win this race, even though he technically did, I guess, because he started it and Cruz finished it. That's a pretty cheeky way to get out of things, but I probably would have had Lightning win it, but just barely winning it with Cruz's help. Maybe not. I mean, I think that you could have had it either way, but the movie ending with Lightning becoming retired and being Cruz's pit chief, I like that a lot. Now, what I will say is the new paint job that they gave him to make him look like the Hudson Hornet, make him look like Doc, that was kind of dumb. You didn't need to do that, but you know. So Cars 3, it's not a perfect movie, but I think it's really underrated as an ending, and it's really underrated as a movie, and people don't talk about it enough as they should. And I really appreciate the route that they went with this movie, and I just felt like I needed to talk about it to show how much that this movie's actually really, really good. And I recommend that you check it out if you haven't seen it yet, because it's a forgotten, but it's an incredibly underrated ending, and it's a pretty great ending to Lightning McQueen's character, that he is still sticking to racing, and there's no better way that this could have ended for him as a character. And I thought that while Cars 3 is not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, I thought they did a really good job in painting that and creating that narrative that there's generation to generation. Stay connected to the old generation. The rookies will let you know when it's over. And you have to know when your time is up and what you're going to do with your life after your time is up and how you're going to find happiness. And that's a message that anybody could take into any part of their life. And you don't have to be a talking car. That really relates to anybody. Once your time working is over, how are you going to find happiness? What are you going to do? Pixar they do a really great job at making people relate to things and finding things to relate to. And Cars 3 is no different. It's a perfect story wrapping up Lightning McQueen. And yeah, I think it's really underrated. You should definitely check it out. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Ian Talks. I'm going to be posting these and getting these out every Friday. I'm working on it. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one. Make sure you watch the new episode of Forever Talking. Make sure you subscribe, like this episode if you can. It means a lot and it helps a lot. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace, love, adios, bye-bye.